Let's bring in the man now who actually spoke to him in that mix zone, Paul Gorst from the Liverpool Echo. Wow. Firstly, Paul, what an evening for you.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't busy enough covering the 3-all draw, we then get 7.5 minutes with Mo Salah, which was one of the most explosive mix zone interviews I think I've ever done. It was really interesting. Obviously, normally when a player doesn't kick a ball for the game, then they've got no interest in talking. But he walked past, and I said to him, as I do most weeks, Mo, have you got 2 minutes? And 99 times out of 100, it's normally just, oh, not today, and a little bit of a grin, and it's a bit of a running joke with myself on the patch because he does it every week. But he said to me, I'm just going to get a shower and I'll be back. And I wasn't sure whether that was being sarcastic because he hadn't played. It was a bit of a dig at, why would I need a shower because I've been on the bench. But I decided to wait it out, and 10 or 15 minutes later he come back, and there was maybe half a dozen of us who were there ready to chat to him. And it was genuinely extraordinary, gobsmacking some of the things that he come out with, and he's really sort of put the cat amongst the pigeons on this one.
Wayne, what did you make of it when you heard the interview and heard the quotes?
Why? Why would you come out and say that? Listen, I think Mo Salah's been absolutely incredible for Liverpool, and as a player, he seems, I don't know him, but he seems really, really quiet and keep himself to himself. But I think last year when he was vocal about not signing a new contract or not being offered a new contract, and I think what he done, he deserved to get the money he gets for playing for Liverpool. But then you can't go and flip it and say what he said. I think it's just absolutely disrespectful to his teammates, to his manager, to the fans. I think it's incredible that he come out with what he did.
Paul, when he came over to you, obviously, I don't know if people have seen, well, they will have by now, the scenes at the end where Mo Salah actually went over to the away fans, didn't he? And really clapped them for a few minutes. Had you seen that happening at the time and thought, hold on, there might be something brewing here?
No. I think a colleague of mine alerted me to that, and then we started to get a little bit of a feeling that maybe he had something to get off his chest. I mean, this is only the fourth time that he stopped and spoken to the UK media after a game, and he's not obligated to do that. But the other two times before last year, where he made a promise when he scored 40 goals in his first season that he'd stop and talk. So we did that in 2018. The next one after that was when they won the Champions League in 2019. And then the other time before yesterday was at St Mary's, just over a year ago, when he come out and he told us that he was more out than in on account of his contract situation. So, it's very deliberate. His he feels that he can use the likes of me as a bit of a vehicle to get a message across and a point out there, and that's absolutely fine by me. If Mo Salah wants to stop and talk to us, perfect. But like I say, it was genuinely extraordinary what he had to say yesterday. And when he used that phrase, I've been thrown under the bus, it was like, wow, this is far more serious than I think any of us expected. You can have the debate around him being dropped and out for 3 games, and that's just part of being a professional footballer, I guess. I'm not too sure if it happened to you very often, Wayne, but
time catches up with all of us, obviously, when you're playing, and I think this season he hasn't looked at his best, he hasn't looked at his sharpest. I've been quite vocal about that over the last couple of months, and clearly Arne Slotter's seen that, and he's put him on the bench, and what you'd like to think is he's one of the main players, if not the main player for Liverpool over the last few years, and you want to see him roll the sleeves up and say, okay, then I'll show you, and to have the arrogance to say that he doesn't have to earn his place because he should play, he's already earned his place. You need to be at your best every week to try and stay in your team. That's part of being in a team sport. And if I was one of his teammates, I wouldn't be happy at all with what he said, because this is where Liverpool need him most. And if anything, he's thrown Liverpool under the bus with his words.
Yeah, Danny Murphy said similar on Match of the Day on Saturday night, didn't he, really? It needs to stay within the four walls of the changing room, or he needs to go to the owner or to the manager specifically, Wayne.
Yeah, I had it with Mourinho. I started the season with Zlatan, and I knew Jose only plays one up front normally, and the first 3 or 4 games he played the 2 of us, and I knew as soon as I had a bad game that I weren't going to play and Zlatan was going to be the forward, and I went in, had an honest conversation with Jose. I asked him could I go on loan in January because I wanted to play, and he said no. He said he needed me more so for the Europa League, but I could leave in the summer. And I stood up, shook his hand, didn't complain about it again, sat on the bench and come on and played a few games, whatever, from then till the end of the season. But that was an honest conversation, and two men, shaking hands and agreeing on something which I think is probably the right thing to do, and rather than doing what Mo Salah's done.
Something he said that was quite telling was that last year he had a great relationship with a manager. This year he has no relationship whatsoever, and I thought that was quite poignant. I was like, what does he mean by that? But is Slot completely ousted him from the group? What's going on?
I can't see that, because I think I've played under 3 Dutch managers in Van Gaal, Koeman and Philip Cocu, and the one thing which they all are is honest, and if you're playing well or you're not playing well, they tell you. So maybe he just doesn't like the words which he's hearing come from the manager, which that's up to him to take them how he takes them. But normally the Dutch managers are very honest with you. So, and I've met Arne Slot a few times, and I think he'd be the same as the other Dutch managers.
What it feels like, though, is he's given the club an ultimatum. He's given the higher ups an ultimatum where he's gone, it's either you want me or you keep Slot. And I think very rarely, if you're doing well, does a player win in that situation if the team's doing well.
Yeah, and he shouldn't win. The manager. Listen, I've had me running obviously over the years with managers as well, and of course you learn from things. But the manager's the one who's he's the head of the team, and he's putting the team together, and he has to make decisions. Obviously, I've been there and done that role, and you have to make decisions. And some are popular, some are unpopular, but it's part of Liverpool have put the trust in Arne Slot. He's won and won the league last season. Now people say, well, that's with Klopp's players, but you've still got to manage that team, and I thought he done it brilliantly last season. And I think the issue for Liverpool is, unfortunately, the big players haven't stepped up for them this season. When you want to be successful, you need your big players to do well.